Welcome back to the Other Side Lifestyle Podcast with Jim and Aram. Get ready to hop into your future with our guest, Jill Bunny. Hopefully you picked up on the hop bunny reference. It was fantastic. She reigns, born and raised in the on the coast of Puerto Rico, currently living in Toronto, the East Coast. Even though she spent a lot of time, nobody knows this, living in South Africa. She toured with Dave Matthews Band back in the late 90s. I don't know if any of that was true. So with that being said, let's get to truths and a lie. That was all false except for the Toronto thing.
Yeah, the Toronto.
I think, unless I just randomly got something right about touring with Dave Matthews, maybe.
Imagine you just nailed that, and she's like, "Yeah, I was."
Actually, I will throw that out later. I was.
So I found Jill through our mutual friend Sean Pastuch. Sean is a good friend of the show, but Jill is doing some incredible work, and I'm not going to speak for her. So Jill, tell us, all of us, what is it that you do, who you are?
Are we going to do the two truths and a lie, or we save that for later?
Let's learn a little bit more about her, and then we'll find out more.
That'll be our commercial break later.
That's the commercial break. We're going to get really into it. First and foremost, I have to give a shout out to Sean. He is absolutely incredible human being. So just to connect with you guys on here and everyone else listening, I wouldn't be here without him. So I'm just going to give him a little plug.
Nice.
But just like you said, my name is Jill Bunny. We might throw that into two truths and a lie later on. Yeah. And I come from the health and fitness field. I started my career when I was 16. So most people, I guess, when they're young, thinking, how did you get into that field? Well, I volunteered. I don't think anybody does that now, but I just wanted to be in a gym. I cleaned. I learned from personal trainers. I just lived and breathed it every moment. And during that process, too, I played for Team Canada in volleyball, and then went out to university, did a kinesiology degree, thought I was going to be a pro volleyball player. And luckily, parents have more sense than anything else. And they said, you'd better get a career. You better get some schooling because you never know what happens. I blew out my knee, and then I thought, you know what, I might as well find love. And I decided to marry somebody that was 5 years older, had a British accent, played soccer. He was the captain of the team. I know.
Sounds boring.
Wait, are you describing
British accent?
I think this is David Beckham.
I wish I'd been simple. I'm like, no, that's a great up. And so I moved out to England and continued my career in personal training, did all of those things of aerobics, spin class, all that shit, and realized, well, that wasn't a white picket fence. So I moved back, got divorced at 25, thought my life was over. And so then I decided to go by lake, figure out my life. Thought it was ending at 25. So anybody listening, you are not ending your life at 25 years old. It just begins. And I grabbed a fitness magazine and thought, well, what the hell am I going to do with my life? Like, I got to figure some stuff out. And I saw these ripped, shredded, beautiful women. And just to give some context, I was pretty tiny, about 90 pounds. I'm about 145 now. So I was very tiny at 5'10". And I
was going to ask too, like, are you taller than both of us? But just a I'm 5'10", so I'm gonna say we're even. We're even.
And so I thought, you know what? I'm gonna be a cover model. I want to be top of the magazines and shove my ex-husband and be like, "See, you made the biggest mistake." So that really led me into the career of this celebrity lifestyle, being a fitness competitor. I put every heart and soul into that, and ended up doing online health coaching, fitness coaching. Went to Arnold's. Won Olympia, was on 5 or 6 covers, and again, this is where everything kind of shifts, where you think everything's great. Well, I got a big rude awakening, got diagnosed with MS. 6 months later, I got diagnosed with cancer, then realized, well, that's definitely not the career path I could take. So I kind of just shifted gears, learned a lot about mindset and functional nutrition, because I really wanted to figure out, like, what the hell's going on with my body at 30 years of age that I'm, like, basically, decrepit? What am I going to do? So I really just learned to create a healthier mindset. So I always say it to people. Up in my brain is like my roommate. And if you had a shitty ass roommate that's evil, you would kick them out. But I was like, it's just sitting in there and treating me like garbage. And I thought, well, I can't just kick her out, so I might as well learn to live with her, and rewired the way that I thought. And that kind of led me down the path of CBT. Went to school again to become a therapist and realized I don't want to be a therapist because I don't want to deal with people that have depression and anxiety. They literally made me depressed, and I went on antidepressants, I kid you not, because of working with people that just were victims. Maybe we'll get into that. And they just didn't want to change. They just wanted to relay their garbage on me. And I thought, I can't do this. And kept shifting, and then actually positioned myself when it comes to neural pathways, understanding how your brain works, into marketing. So it really does work when you think of how people think. It actually is very good for marketing.
Yeah,
so now
I was going to say, yeah.
So now I do brand strategy, not manipulative marketing, but just understand how we think and bringing that into human-centric marketing and in the health and fitness field. So at 38 years old, I've done a shitload. That's a condensed version of my crazy life.
Yeah.
Not the first time that elevator pitch has come out.
I like, there's a lot there to unpack.
Where do you want to start? I know where I want to start.
Yeah.
Jimmy, where
Are
do
you
you
talking to
want
me?
start? Yeah. I mean,
No, you go ahead. You said you feel like you have a very confident thing that you want to start right off with. So
I heard something. I heard something that I think would immediately rub people the wrong way, and this is exactly why I want to tackle it. So we here on the Other Side Lifestyle are definitely mental health advocates. We talk a lot about depression and anxiety and stress and overwhelm and things that people in the modern era are dealing with. Now, you said something interesting. You said that when you were working with people using cognitive behavioral therapy, you felt as though a lot of the folks were coming in there to just unload their bullshit on you, and that was actually making you depressed.
Yeah.
Do you find that there's certain types of therapy that sticks better than others? Or are you somebody who's a proponent of that type of therapy still, or are you just completely shifted into some other direction that you think people should take when it comes to mental health?
I'm a full advocate for it, right? So when you hear that of somebody saying like, it's bullshit, don't go see a therapist, like there's a rhyme and reason. And I still have my hesitations, and going at 33 years old back to school and having a little bit of life experience.
Right.
Going in there, and you realize a lot of people go into fields because they want to fix themselves. And I actually did. I wanted to fix myself. That's why I went, and because of my past, I didn't trust people. I'm like, I'm just going to figure this out. I'm going to learn. So that's just the way that I do things. So don't recommend spending $50,000 just to learn that. But so therapy could be cheaper than that. But I realized a lot of them didn't have the experience because they were young, or they just weren't able to, they just wouldn't listen, for example. So you weren't actually getting back. And that's not everybody. But in the field of therapy, there's a lot of red tape. So they have to take session notes. There's certain things they can and can't do. So I feel that maybe a lot of individuals won't actually heal because therapists are so scared of getting sued. And I saw it. And that's where, first and foremost, I'm kind of getting off. I'm like, fuck this shit. Like, I'd rather help somebody, like, do more of like a coaching base and actually make some change than being afraid of, getting sued. In all honesty.
What aspects would people most be afraid of getting sued? Is it just simply giving advice?
Yeah. So
because they can't give advice. You just got to sit there and bite your tongue and be like, I can't tell you anything. I just have to listen. How does that make you feel?
How does it make you feel? Maybe write it down. So I notice a lot of people are afraid that, even if somebody says, maybe I don't want to live anymore. So how do you know that they're just saying that? Or how do you know that you've got to take something? So there's so much involved. And if that happens, you could be called, and you have your notes. And if not, you could get a lot in trouble. And I thought, I actually am in the service to help people, not to help myself and safeguard. So I realized that, I'm a black sheep. So I still do what I do and have that type of backing to help educate people, but be more free. But to get back to your point around, I would say I'm still a firm believer in CBT because I like the present day approach, not going back too far and constantly sitting on, like the Freud's couch and sitting there. How does it make you feel? Let's look into the past. I do like looking at the combination of a situation happened, we all went through something. Maybe it's divorce, for example, or, we could use health and fitness for, let's say, weight loss. Right. So maybe we are going through menopause, as you guys are going through.
That's when life ends. I was going to make a little reference. You're like, life doesn't end at 25, it begins. And I was going to be like, it ends at menopause.
Ends at menopause. So let's say we're going through menopause. That's the situation. It's difficult. But I might think of it differently, which means I'm going to have different feelings and behaviors. So everybody thinks that, well, this did it. It's actually not the situation. It's how we think and we react and behave. So that really is CBT, and I like that. But I would say there's a lot of things that we need to understand when it comes to that in order to help somebody. And I think a lot of people are stuck. And that's because the people teaching it aren't educated enough, or they're just not willing to take enough risk and to actually call people out and say, hey, like, you gonna cry about it? Absolutely, I'm here, but let's move forward. And a lot of people just willing to take that approach, and it can be harsh, but it's not for everybody. But I find taking that with the clients that I work with, they're ready to make those changes. And sometimes we need to call people out on their shit.
I think that's an interesting perspective, because the thing that I think really got me out of my dark days was the fact that I didn't hire a therapist per se so much as hiring a coach. And the coach was a mindset-based coach who did have some psych background, but she really challenged me. It wasn't just an hour spent regurgitating my bullshit onto her and then watching her nod her head and say, It was, well, yeah, I get it, and I see why this sucks for you, but what are you going to do about it? And this is what I think you should do about it. Check back with me next week about you implementing it. And there was actually actionable steps that were implemented, and there were times where I fucked it up and I didn't do it. There was times where I made no progress, and there was times that my progress was weekly. Do you think that because of the bounds of the healthcare system, and this can go into medicine, this can go into endocrinology, this can go into the conditions that you've had to deal with personally, there's just this massive fear of implementation. And I think it's because implementation is hard and people aren't willing to do it.
Correct. A lot of people aren't, or they don't know how to, right? And it's overwhelming. And I think it takes a very educated person and experience to know where they're starting from. Because a lot of us have this approach, we can see them and say, I want them to get here, but we have to get them at point A and understand maybe previous experiences, what stopped them, what are they fearing about, how we can support them. And I think that helps a lot. But again, in our system, they only have so much time. And that was a big thing too. So going through functional nutrition with IFM, that was one thing where I'm like, I don't want to be a functional nutritionist or a practitioner, because I don't want to just write scripts and say, here you go, see you later, come back in 3 months. And that's just, there's nothing wrong with that. We need those people, but we also need coaches to be able to implement that, hold them accountable. And I'm a person that wants to see end to end. Like, I want to watch somebody transform. So I realized that there are people that need to be there every step of the way, that they feel supported when a system is broken, or somebody has 200 clients and they can't remember who you are. I don't fault them for that. That's just our system, but we need to have that extra support from coaches like ourselves that can actually help support the professionals and the doctors do their job, and they all have to come together. And I'm not a person that says you suck as a doctor. It's like, how can we support you? And we've got to be a team. And I think that's where there needs to be some big significant changes across the board if we want to make change.
Yeah. What do you see as being the biggest early roadblocks for somebody when they're coming to you? There's something about their life that they want to change. What's the biggest hurdle that you kind of consistently see? I know that might be a tough question to,
I would say, it's they don't actually want to do it.
Unpack that a little bit, because I think that's easy to hear. And I think a lot of people will probably resonate with the fact, well, that's bullshit. I do want to change. Well,
like, what action steps are they resistant? Like, what action steps do people seem to be resistant to?
Yeah. The uncomfortableness, right? So you think, I want to lose weight, and I'm good. You don't want it. Actually, you do, but you don't realize the uncomfortableness that you're going to have to go through. And do you actually want to go through the struggle, have to give up certain things? No, I actually don't. So that's the biggest roadblock, where we sit down and say, okay, well, this is the plan that it could look like. Here are different ways. Do you actually want to do that? Like, deep down, give up this, give up your wine on a Friday night, give up margaritas and nachos, and be honest. And that's where I'm like, that's a big thing, where even myself, like, I want to get like a little leaner and fitter again, but also I like my nachos. And I like my margaritas, and I'm not willing to give it up. And I've done it for 9 months. And 75 hard with Andy for Sally, I've seen it. I'm like, I'm going to do it. And this is me honest. I'm like, no, I actually don't want to not drink for 75 days when I'm at my friends, right? So there's certain things that I'm just honest. And if I sat down and got real, I don't want to do it. And that's where a lot of people struggle with, to say, I actually just don't want to do it.
Yeah, maybe don't have nachos and margaritas for breakfast, and then you'll have more success.
Maybe.
Jill. Maybe it's
Shit.
it's starting your day with that. That's really the downward spiral. Let's
Gonna write that down.
take some action on that. I can't tell you how many times I've said either here or if I've been a guest on somebody or just even online, exactly that, of people say that they want the body, but they want the lifestyle that led them to the body that they don't like. And it's, what do you really want? Like this question. And how can we get somebody, or can we not get somebody beyond this, where it's like, no, I do want this change. I know I need to stop doing these things, but then they go right back to it. I feel like it's a lot of their friend group and the people they don't want to be not fun anymore. They don't want to miss out on these things. How do we get beyond this? Because I think people want it, but they want that social life. They just want to have the social life with the fit body. I want to look like a smoke show and still have my drinks and go out to happy hour and do all the stuff.
Doesn't?
Correct.
You still can balance. You still can.
Yeah.
Of course you do. You found that. I would say the biggest thing where I'm just a realist, and I say you're right. Sometimes we have to change our friend group, or the amount that we're hanging around with on a day-to-day basis. Maybe it's less. But I call that like your 1.0 and 2.0 lives. We have our 1.0 where we're currently at. And that's where everybody's like, I want to be there. And we hear the 2.0, and this is great. Like, we have all these friends. And that was like the best thing ever. But actually, we have to realize the worst part is in the middle. It's actually not the 1.0, because we like it. We have our friends. But if I just say it's going to be shit in the gap, that you're going to lose friends, you don't have the new friends yet. So it actually sucks more. But you can either say it's going to suck, but it'll get better, or it's going to suck and then it's going to suck more because I just gave up. So once they realize it, they're like, I understand because I'm telling you the truth. And that's what we have to do as coaches, and not put this fairy tale shit that's online all the time, or we make it sound so easy. That's the problem, is that we're led to believe it is. And that's where I say it's going to be great, but it's going to be hard. And I think more people have to say that. And it's the gap that sucks. But actually, I love the gap, because when you feel it, you're like, okay, if this sucks, it means it's going to get better.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because so many people will tolerate a very high degree of discomfort, whether it comes from being in a dead-end job that you don't really like, that you just keep showing up to. People are stuck in relationships that they don't want to get out of because they don't want to destroy their children or whatever. But meanwhile, they hate each other every single day and they still stay. So people have a very high degree of tolerance for discomfort. It's just very selective and it's very circumstantial, because there's no really bad side effect of eating like shit or not training consistently. There's no immediate side effect. Like, you don't immediately get fat because you had a bad meal, or you don't immediately get weak because you missed a training session. But if you don't show up to work, you get fired. And if you don't parent your kids, they're going to take your fucking kids away from you. So, like, I think if the penalties...
Yeah, but not after the first day. You can go a while not parenting them.
I mean, what do you have, like 6 months before they actually, like, DCF?
Before they catch you. Yeah.
So you have a little bit of leeway with that, which is great. So if you're a deadbeat parent, you're good.
You got some time.
Yeah.
You got some time.
But like in general,
that's the comfort of the brain, though.
Yes.
That's how the brain operates. It's like, that's the comfort that you're used to.
Yeah.
And that, like, comfort, we always like to say, like, discomfort and comfort and this and that, but our brain just simply knows familiarity, and that therefore it's comfort. If it's familiar to you, it's comfortable, no matter how uncomfortable it is. And then to break out of that is the hard part.
Are there any tactics that you discuss with your clientele base when it comes to acceptance of where they're at? So, for example, phases of life will always change. Like you mentioned, menopause. A lot of women, and I work with mostly women that are going to be in that like 40-year-old bracket that are heading towards perimenopause, and it's terrifying for them. And I think it's terrifying for them because they feel like they lose control of their body, and they don't have the control they used to have, or they're not able to do the things they used to do. How are you able to ease somebody into a new phase of life that's otherwise unknown or somewhat dreadful for them in general?
I always say I don't discount it, right? So that's the first point where that's probably my therapist brain, that I'm not like, no, just get over it. Where it's like, I actually do say, like, let's hear it. I want to honor how you feel. Absolutely. And I think that's important, where we take that empathy and compassion to understand. And then from there, I say, okay, well, now that I understand how you feel, let's kind of look at what other aspects you have. So menopause, like, that's inevitable. I say it's part of being a woman, that comes a time, but we say it's ending. But why are we hearing that? Why are we believing that? Have you actually hit it yet? No. So you're having this notion that you think it's going to be ending, but it's not. And you're going to the worst case scenario. So let's look at all angles and take a multiple perspective approach. So I always say MPA, like put that thought that you have and let's look at 10 different ways that you can think of it. It could be nuts, it could be crazy, doesn't matter, but all we're doing is looking at it from a different perspective. And one of the best ways where we have a lot of fun is say, let's look at it from the best case, like absolutely the best case. And I mean, it'll never happen. Really, you're going to lose all the weight. You're going to feel great. You're going to have more energy. Like you're going to track all the men. Like I may just go to like level where like that's never going to happen. And then you can say like the worst thing, like I'm going to go to jail. I'm going to like literally enter the earth. That's ridiculous too. And you're like, okay, so what is the reality? Right. So then they start to feel better. So we're just kind of using our brain in a way where multiple perspective, worst case, best case, what's the reality? And some friends are really good at it because you could go like down a deep dark web and then you just laugh. You're like, okay, out of reality, this is what's going to happen.
Your uterus could fall right out.
Absolutely.
While at dinner.
Yeah.
Yes.
That would be.
And yes, I like that. I'm going to use that.
Well, what you're essentially doing, Jill, is you're applying logic and reason to something that's otherwise very emotional for people.
Correct.
You know, some things like body image and the relationship that people have with food. These are all very emotionally driven things and thoughts, as opposed to food is food. My body is my body. The weight is the weight on the scale. These things are variable. They will change. But I'm ultimately in control of a lot of the variables that are contributing to these changes. So I think instead of having people, like you said, have this like almost preemptive panic towards this thing that they really haven't even hit yet or don't understand fully, like let's prepare ourselves for it and let's know that it's not always going to be easy and it might suck and it might be bumpy, but we can get through it with some reason and some logic. And I think that's great. Jimmy?
Oh,
Yeah,
I don't know. I was taking it. I was listening to what you were saying. I think the mindset stuff of shifting out of that, facing these different perspectives, these different angles of what could happen. Once we narrow it down, are you then just trying to really get them to practice being in the moment more and not dreading the stuff from the future? Is there a practice of being in the moment?
Yeah, I always say sometimes in the moment they're scattering too, but I always just look at it and say, let's, if they're going fear-based, I always say, let's get back to reality. And I don't say 100% better. So that's what everybody's hoping to have this. I'm going to feel 100%, everything's going to change. I'm like, I'm actually not worse. I'm not after that. And I usually say out of like 100%, like whether it's fear, anger, frustration, like how do you feel right now? If you had to give me a score, like 100, I fucking hate this shit. Like, okay, we go through that. What's a different perspective? What evidence is there to prove that this is going to be the worst situation ever? And we actually start doing that and you're ready to say, there actually is no evidence. Okay, how do you feel? Well, I feel like 30% better. That's a win, right? So they start to understand that not after 0 to 100 is all or nothing. And a lot of the time too with my clients, or we hear a lot of coaches, we go straight to problem solving, right? How to solve this problem. And a lot of coaches, we feel that because we want to take the pain away. But at the time, they don't actually have to solve the problem because it's idioticness in their head. So that's where I say, well, let's look at it. What evidence is there to even prove that that's right? Let's hear all the evidence. And they try to do it and they can't get any. And then sometimes they can, but I'm like, let's try. And they're like, nope, but I have everything against it. Okay, so do we need to problem solve this? No, I don't actually have to problem solve it because it's not true. But then if we do it, and there's a lot of evidence to prove that their fear is correct, I say, awesome. Well, then now let's solve it. Now let's actually get into problem solving.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here to do. So either way, regardless of the outcome, when we start to look at that, they're feeling better from that situation. And I find that the most gratifying feeling, and I see them where they're getting control back, where sometimes they realize that their head's just thinking crazy shit. And I'm like, mine does too. Don't have to solve it. Sometimes I'm just like, whoa, that's my crazy brain just talking there. Just, okay, that was great for 10 minutes, but let's get on with it.
Yeah,
so they just start to understand to work with it. Correct.
Yeah. I think it was, do you know that, I don't know what his actually, Shaolin Online. He's the guy, he's a monk. I love all his posts. The Mulligan brothers are always like, I guess, ones that have produced a lot of videos of his. And he was talking. Yeah, he's awesome. I reshared one of his things recently. It was using the acronym RAIN, recognize. I believe it was accept, or it might have been acknowledge. I think it was acknowledge. Oh God, what was the I? Investigate, and then non-identity. So it's like you're recognize, acknowledge, recognizing this is how I'm feeling. These are the emotions I'm feeling. I'm recognizing, okay, this is how I'm feeling. And then there was either acknowledge or an acceptance. I think it might have been acknowledge. And then he explains that that whole process. But then even just that non-identity at the end, investigate into this, which is kind of what you're saying. Is there evidence for this? Why might I be feeling this way? You can look to something in the past, look at something present, and then just this non-identity aspect of it, which everything that you were just saying kind of reminds me of that RAIN acronym, which, HALT, are you hungry, angry, lonely, or tired for food? This RAIN acronym could really go along with every aspect of our life, including, okay, I just want to pig out in the fridge right now. Well, let's recognize how I'm feeling, and be in that moment a little bit, acknowledge, investigate, and non-identity. Yeah.
I like that. And that actually does, Brant, because I hear this is what happens with clients because they go too much analytical, which can happen where we're constantly analyzing. And I usually say all I do is like worry time. So we get a lot of times that like I gotta write a thought record, I gotta figure this out because it's really neat when you start to think. So I usually say if we can't do that in the moment, if we look and say, is this a problem I can solve right now? Like in 5 seconds, yes or no? No? Okay, well then I'm gonna schedule worry time. So I say a lot of times, put it at 4:30 for 20 minutes and worry the shit out of yourself. Like literally that's the time to do it. And then they schedule it in, and half the time I don't remember what I was worrying about.
Yeah.
So that's
I posted something. I was like, listen, everybody tells you not to worry. I say, keep worrying, because all those times that you've been worrying, 99.9% of the time, it didn't happen. So clearly worrying is working. So keep worrying. It's just this sarcastic post. We do it. And even though we have the history of knowing that we worry about things and it doesn't come to fruition, we still worry about it. How many people get back to you with that when you schedule the worry time and then they sit down to do it and they're like, they just don't even bother spending the 20. I'd imagine if I had to sit down and worry, I'd go, what the fuck am I doing? There's nothing to worry about.
I got
I
nothing.
feel like you just shut it down right away.
They don't want to do it. Like, I don't have the time. And that was the biggest thing when I did like health coaching for people that would, they're like, I just got to eat the recipes. I got to eat this in their head. So I'm like, okay, do it. Sit down, no distractions, no phone, no TV, sit down for 10 minutes and eat that Reese's Pieces. But what? You'll finish it in a minute and you got to sit there for 9 minutes more. And then we'll never do it again. They're like, that was hell. I'm like, I know. Are you going to do it again? No.
Oh, it's like, you want it? What if you're like, yeah, you want it? This is what I want you to do. I want you to go out and get 10 packs of them. And I want you to sit down and eat all 10.
It's like
how many people would be like,
when our dad made us smoke when we were kids?
It was I think it was Anthony Jeselnik. He's like, when I was a kid, my dad caught me smoking, made me smoke the whole pack to teach me a lesson about brand loyalty.
I've had
That's amazing.
But yeah. Anyway,
I
I wonder how many people it's like you tell them to eat 10 of them if they're going to go, I'm not going through all that. I don't want these things that bad.
And I think it's interesting that you said that you put that into the food context, because if you were actually to tell somebody to pig out or overindulge on their quote unquote favorite item in just the idea of doing it sitting there at the counter with no television on, nobody around, I bet 99% of people wouldn't actually go through with it.
Yeah.
Because typically we're overindulging and snacking when we're bored and when we're in front of the television at the end of the day. And this is when most of the people's problems are starting to occur. But if you were to tell somebody, hey, at lunchtime today, instead of eating your lunch, I want you to get all those chips, all those snacks, and all those sweets and just eat them for your normal lunch. Would you do it? No, you wouldn't. That would be absurd to you. But for whatever reason, you have no problem doing it at 9 o'clock at night. So we have an environment problem and we have a mindset issue. It's got nothing to do with your relationship with food. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit and talk about some of the fights that you've had, because I think when somebody goes to your social media, they're going to see a very, very strong woman who's had no problems in her life, and she's been able to plow through every issue with poise and complete composure.
Except the British guy.
I'm sure that's not the case.
That bastard.
I hope he's listening to this.
So, fuck David. We obviously know that David Beckham didn't work out. He ended up meeting what's her name. She sucks, but she's had to live with her now. So whatever. You won. He lost. When you had to go through the initial diagnosis phase and then the acceptance phase of like, I have now these 2 diseases that I'm dealing with, like what initially happened as far as like fear, panic, whatever, and then what did you do to move through that phase?
Yeah. Well, I'd say everybody goes through diagnosis. I hope people listening don't have to, but there's never this, like, this is what you'll happen. You'll have like grief. I went into denial with MS, the first one. I literally, I wasn't ready to accept it, right? So being a fitness competitor, I'm like, this is who I am. So I got diagnosed, I looked and thought, we got to go to the gym. So I literally went to the gym, and I just didn't want to acknowledge anything. Only told a few people, and my coach and my husband, the second husband, and my family. And I just avoided, because if I didn't have to pay attention to it, it wouldn't exist. And that was for a very, very long time, until there was no way that I could, like, not just avoid it, where I wasn't walking properly and couldn't see. So obviously there's a lot of implications I have now. So I had to accept it. Was I pissed off? Absolutely. And you could ask a lot of my friends about angry, but you can just go through that. And then at some point I thought, well, I can either allow this to take my entire life, everything about me, or I can make a shift. And it was just, I'm an athlete by heart, so that's just what I am. I will win. Like, in my head, since I was a young person, maybe that's just helps playing volleyball and having that, where I wanted to win. And I knew, okay, I'll shift gears. So then it was like, what's my next competition? And that would be, I want to get my hands back. And that became my obsession. So that's really where my brain goes. And I might not help everybody on here, but if you can take a little bit of an athlete mindset, sometimes you just take it aside and you're like, I'm gonna go. So it just kind of helped me take a different outer body experience to push through that. And then going through cancer, the first part was actually very easy. So for them with thyroid cancer, they're like, we'll just remove it. I'm like, that's easy, just remove it and then we're good. So in all honesty, like, I thought, okay, that's probably another avoidance technique. I do that a lot. It makes it easier, but it doesn't help things in the long term. And went through that. But like you guys know, once you go through it, you don't have a thyroid, so you have to go on Synthroid to be able to actually create your T4, T3. And I had a T4, TSH was 15.6. So for anybody on here, usually, like, I'm at a 1.2, I function very well. So I was depressed. I actually wanted to kill myself. I hated everything, but realistically, my environment was great, and I knew that. And that's where I called the doctor and said, oh, okay, like, this is not good. So I'm now realizing the ramifications of this. Fix it. It's going to take a while. So I had to learn patience. And through that experience, I felt like a fraud, because I'm a health coach. I know how to basically train people to look great. I put on 70 pounds. There's not many photos of me. And I thought, what the hell am I going to do? I can't even do it for myself. Yet I'm supposed to train others. So hearing that, this is just how we feel, right? Other people are going to go through stuff, and we just understand that that's just what we go through. As a feeling, it doesn't mean it's true. But in that mindset, I felt that way. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to have to take time. And I understand that, and it sucks. So that's where I went down functional nutrition and then the therapy. So I started going down that road to try and understand. And the doctor said the best thing, it was, you ask a lot of questions. Why don't you go and take the time that you did and apply to your training, like 4 hours a day, and go to school and help other people? And that became my competition. I was like, I'm going to be an athlete when it comes to academics and do this. And then through that, I got healthier. I feel great. I have my good days and bad days now. And what I have is I have my grit. So some days my legs don't work still. I can't see out of my eye for the left side. So my friends say, oh God, half the time you're blind. My husband says I'll marry him because I'm blind. And my friends say, well, you just don't want to be a DV because I can't drive at night. So I'm like, there's actually a lot of positives. So I never have to drive.
I'm sick of looking at you. Stand over here.
Right? He's like, yeah, they marry me because you can't see. But I would say now I have my mind. So that's my thing now, where sure, it would have been a death sentence for me to be in a wheelchair 8 years ago because my life was competition. But we can change and transform. And now that I got my mind, and I'll use it like an athlete, and I'll win at business. I'll win for my clients and be like, you want to do this? Then I will go and be that athlete in you. And you want me on your team. You definitely don't want me as a competitor, because we're going to destroy our competitors. So that's kind of what I done, is I've accepted and just understand that feelings suck, that they come and go.
What about the bad days?
The bad days, I sometimes have a moment. I'm allowed to, and I swear, I get angry. Like, I'm not a person that's like, okay, I understand it's a feeling. Sometimes I lose my shit. And I will. And I don't know somebody that doesn't, right? But I also know that tomorrow is a different day. Or I can say, what is one thing I can do right now to make it a little bit better? Something small, and I'll do it, and I'll be okay. That's really what I do. And I just know some days are bad days, but they're not there yet.
What are some of
Yeah.
the small things that you end up implementing on those shittier days?
hmm So sometimes I literally will cuddle my dog, like just something simple where you can't do anything. And then sometimes I will do something in my business. I'll do something difficult that I am like, there's no way I can do this. I will tackle it for 20 minutes. I'll just do it. Something difficult. And I know if I can do that, then why can't I do this? So I just literally will punish myself to do it rather than say, I can't, I give up. Like, nope, go do one thing. So I love it.
It's even just even doing that, whether you look at it as punishment or not, it can just be recognizing that action creates a change in our mental environment. I mean, the amount of times that I'm sure all of us have felt that way. You're just tired in the dump. You're like, I just got to at least go for a walk or just go do one movement for 3 sets out the gym, push something a little bit heavy, and just how that changes our biochemistry. It makes us feel better, like taking some action.
And
There's a lot of people not
dwelling.
taking action.
Because look
Yeah.
at the amount of time, and I've known, and I look sometimes at, whoa, I spent way too long dwelling, getting angry, doing nothing, like hours. And I'm thinking, I only have a certain amount of time. We've lost people in our lives that we love. And I think that's something in my head that we lose people we love, some too young, some that are no longer here, like my granddad in 93, he had a living great life that I missed on. And I'm like, you know what, I'm still here. Other people aren't, whether by choice or not, I am still going to do something. So I just train my brain to get out of it where I'm not spending too long dwelling because I've seen people do it. And that's probably just in my practice and therapy back in the day. I saw people dwell in the amount of time they wasted in their life. I think that in my head does enough to, I don't want to be like that.
And even just that's an energy source. I mean, this is why people who aren't exercising, eating great, they go to lay down the bed at night and they can't turn their brain off because they haven't put out any physical energy. This energy's got to end up residing somewhere.
Correct.
And it ends up just running around in our brain. And sometimes we need to get the energy out physically to stop the noise in our brain of the dwelling, the complaining, the whining, the misery. We need to get that energy out. And I think people don't realize that.
Yeah, you have to. I always say it's like your head is like a 2-year-old in the backseat. I don't have a kid, but you know, when they like kick your backseat, like I want McDonald's.
Yeah.
And you probably say no twice, but you're not going to continue to say no, no, no. Like you lose it, or you probably do something bad you shouldn't. Like you just say no and that's it.
My kid would get his ass beat. I mean,
right? But you don't accept it.
You know what I'm saying? Here's some energy for you, kid. I'm just kidding.
Right? But you're like, I'm not accepting that. So why do we accept it from ourselves? So I always say that's my 2-year-old wanting McDonald's. So let's just stop that. So I've just learned things to teach my brain to just stop for a moment and find really helpful.
So in the post that you're gonna have to repost for the 3rd time because the audio got fucked up.
So Jim, you gotta say it. You gotta give a tip. Like that was the tip of the day you told me. So I think
that was
you
the
should
tip
tell
of the
everybody.
day.
Yes.
Here's the tip of the day. If you did not know, and you are posting a reel, do not use the music that is provided by Instagram. Don't upload your video and then add the music from Instagram because they can lose their license with Sony, and then all those songs are gone, and it takes your voice away as well. So add your music pre or post production on whatever that language is, and then upload the audio with your voice audio. All is one thing. Do not use Instagram's audio. Lesson of the day.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And for all that integrity, I still appreciate it. So Jill posted a video about the victim mindset and then using labels. And what she was talking about is saying things like, I have MS, so I can't, or I'm this age and this is why this happened. Go into that entire train of thought, because I think a lot of our clients, a lot of people that potentially are looking for help. I mean, I know that I deal with this almost on a weekly basis where people say something about themselves and then they create an opposition to whatever action they're supposed to be taking. So I want you to really dive into that because that could be one of the biggest learning lessons that anybody can ever have, I think.
Yeah. And I will put it back up, but I would say even before, even on this podcast, because it's easy to pause stuff nowadays, but even just writing down, first of all, when we think of labels, what we write. So I think that's the most important. Anybody listening is to actually say, you know what, I'm going to write down all the labels that I have for myself, because we all do, whether it's mom, might be like a daughter, right? Business owner, right? We write them all down so we understand. And that's the first and foremost important thing. And for myself, I'll label and say, well, I have MS, right? For example. But looking at that, how does that help? It doesn't. I'm disabled, right? I'm this. And when we have that, it stops us from propelling forward because it pigeonholes us. It puts us in that box, whereas we're far more. And that's where if I have MS, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do that, like X, Y, Z. So if you look at your list and say, I'm a mom, well, what does that tell you? Is there anything in X, Y, Z? I hear that with moms all the time, a label, well, I can't do this for myself because then that's, that's self-serving, right? But in the same token, isn't it that if we take care of ourselves, we're better for other people? And that's where I think we hold too much on labels. And it also stops us from moving forward, even in our careers, right? So a lot of the time you're like, well, I was an athlete, then I became a health coach, then I became a therapist, then I became marketing. I can like, well, maybe you can't get your shit together. Actually, no, I just don't have a label, right? So I think that's the most important thing we do is we actually just take those labels off and we just be who we are and see what would transpire if we didn't just keep ourselves in that way. And I do think that we're in an age now where we might not be in a career for 50 years. Like my parents were teachers. They were in that. But I think we're in a different field where we can be way more things. And I think we just have to take the labels off and see the benefits that it has and the benefits that may be or the cons that might be hindering us instead.
It's probably one of the biggest things that drives me nuts, the labeling stuff. Like DSM, it's nice to get a label because it's like, oh, I'm not some weird psycho. There is actually a diagnosis, but then it instantly becomes exactly what you just said. This is how I am. This is how my family is. There's no way out of it. Versus saying this is something that I do. This is something I've been in the habit of doing. Is such a different mindset than this is how I am or who I am or what I am. Aram, I'm sorry, sir.
No, I think it's sad because it stifles any potential that human beings have the second that you hide behind that label. And I guess it's comfortable. I don't get me wrong. When I tore my Achilles, I definitely noticed it at the airport.
It takes responsibility away a little bit as well.
It does.
It's now,
that's the problem.
It's out of my control.
Exactly. And I think what Jill did a really good job of in that video is she basically said, like, I have these conditions, and some days these conditions are going to define my day, but it doesn't have to be every day. And I'm allowed to, like you said, which is I could lay there and hug my dog for 45 minutes and not do anything at all that day. Or I can decide to spend 20 minutes plowing through a very, very important task for work. And we all have that choice. We can all either be victimized or we can rise up against it. Unfortunately, and I think you had another video where you said 90-something% of people will not go after what they actually say they want to go after.
A lot of that people won't, or it's you look at it, and I think this is the biggest thing that we can do as well. And I think a lot of women do that is we get sucked into this victim mentality where we're actually getting right. So when we're saying, "Oh, I have MS,"
God, yes, like freaking
right, yeah. But it's true, and it's like, oh, and it feels good. Right. And then, so what do? We hold on to that because we want that support. But actually, by giving that support doesn't actually push them along the way. So we get stuck in this victim mentality because of the benefits that we feel from other people. But if we actually took a step back and understood that I'm being supported, sure. But is it actually hindering me from moving forward? And it could be. And that's where a lot of us as individuals, when we hear somebody, it could be, I'm very sorry to hear that you're going through that. What are you doing? And you shift the narrative into something positive and they do, or we don't actually keep, it's like kind of those genres. It's like, oh, I want more, but then they want more and more and more. Cut it off and then start kind of focusing on something else. And I think as like health coaches, you've got to do that. As people, we have to push and say, not that we don't support it, but how much are we supporting and we're stopping them from moving forward.
It's like Facebook posting. People get on the complaint and everybody's like, oh my God, that's so off. That guy, he's an asshole, this and that. And then you're like, it's the first time you've gotten into attention in forever. And you complain. So what did you just teach yourself? Yeah. Oh, well, I'll just keep complaining because that's when all of a sudden my friends show up out of nowhere to support me. To say all these things. It's terrible. Yeah. Oh.
And that's where the 1.0 friends, and we see it versus the 2.0. So when we actually stop, we don't get anything. And we understand that you're like, I'm no longer being a victim. I'm no longer putting that stuff out there. I'm not getting anything. But in time, when I'm putting more positive things that people actually believe, because sometimes you post it once and you don't get anything. You're like, well, that sucks. You're like, well, it takes a little longer because people have to actually believe that you've transformed into this person. Right. So it's just delaying gratification.
You're just at least making an effort You know, I think so many, like I'm starting to get to a place in my career and in my life where I despise the word try. You know, I don't
Mm.
know what it is about that word try that just bothers me these days because
You
I know
either
that
do or you do not.
because
There is
they're
no
like
try.
what
Yoda.
what does try actually mean? Try means that I gave it some haphazard level of effort for some short period of time and it didn't work out for me, so I stopped. Versus I'm just going to keep doing it and sucking at it until I don't suck at it anymore. And that's what I think so many people are afraid of is they're afraid of even starting to make a shift and starting to make a change for this proverbial fear of failure. But like nobody's good at anything when they first started, whether it's meal prep or training or starting a new business or leaving a current business or leaving a relationship and entering into a new one. Like it's going to suck. It's
Yeah.
absolutely going to be very, very difficult. It's going to consume a lot of time in your head. It's going to really affect your quality of life. But it's so temporary. And I think as human beings, we are so in the moment for a lot of the wrong reasons. Like we can't be in the moment where when we're at a family dinner or hanging out with our loved ones because we're worried about all this other shit. But then when we're worried about all this other shit, we're so in the moment that we're so obsessed with that bad part of our life as opposed to shifting that mindset. So are there things that
Mhm.
you think that folks can think about when it comes to the acceptance of the discomfort? Like, you know, that if you're about to
Yeah.
enter menopause, you're in for something that's going to be more difficult than it was when you were 30.
Yeah.
So these are the things you can do to prepare yourself mentally. And then these are the things you can do to prepare yourself physically. So hopefully it'll soften the blow. Can you elaborate on how you would maybe have that discussion with a business owner or with
Yeah.
when you were doing health coaching, when somebody was going through a dieting phase or a bulking phase?
Yeah. I'd say when it sucks, exactly what you said, try. That person's good at something and actually took a lot of time to do something well. So I say if it's a business, like you guys been in business a while, pisses you off when somebody gets it done in a week, right? Because you're like, you know how long it took me to do that? And it's like, I want you to struggle because I struggled. So that's where I usually say, what thing have you done well and how long did it take? It took me 3 years to do this. And it's like, yeah. Does it feel good because you're an expert in that? Yeah. Does it piss you off that somebody's complaining after a week because they didn't get results? Yeah. That's you right now. And they're like, oh. So that's usually what I do. And they're like, yeah, okay, I get it. So I'm like, you just have to take context from their life that they can apply to. And then it's just like, it's no different. So then they'll never complain again. They're like, yeah, I don't want to be that person. It's like, it's just something new. So you're going to suck, but you should suck because I'd be pissed off because I spent all that time. And then they just understand. And I'm like, but I accept why you feel that way. And I'm empathize, but this is what's happening. So just use different relevance from different parts of their life so that they can understand.
Yeah, that's an awesome point. I mean, so many people, I think, like, I don't know how to do this. Well, okay, you didn't know how to do that other thing either until you started doing it, and then after 3 to 4 months, you get better at it. And that's the thing about health and wellness. I think we see so much conflicting information, and everybody makes it out to be some complicated, evil thing that's going to take you years and years to master. When in reality, like, if you just start today and you don't look back, in a year, you're going to be laughing that it took you so long to finally get on the bus.
Disney.
It's never been this thing that's going to be so hard to do. Like, it's not that hard to figure out how to train. It's not that hard to prepare meals for yourself during the day. Like, none of these things are rocket science. I think starting a business and improving a relationship are much more difficult tasks.
They are.
Well, I think, do you talk to them about being outcome based? Because even like all the examples, everything we just said, it's outcome based frustration. I'm doing this for this outcome. Well, how do we get people to not be thinking so much about the outcome? Are you posting to be able to send out a message, or are you posting to grow your business? These are two different reasons.
Correct.
One will lead to more frustration or a different strategy. If you can recognize I'm doing it to grow, okay, these types of posts don't grow. And now I'm just going to cater and pander to the audience so I can grow my following. That could be fine. At least then you know what you want, which goes back to the original conversation of figuring out what the hell you want. But do you have those conversations with goal or whatever, outcome oriented thinking?
Very interesting. And I think this was something I learned about myself, and I see it in a lot of people. It was post competition blues, right? So when you do something, you're like, and for the longest time, my parents like, you're just never satisfied. You're never
It's like,
happy.
now what?
Correct. I always have a now what. And I thought, like, what's wrong with me that I'm never happy, I'm never satisfied? Is that the athlete mentality? Probably. But actually, what I realized, it was never about the outcome. It's actually the journey. That I actually
Yeah.
really enjoyed that part, but we get to the end, and it's actually, you get all the dopamine build up actually
The
doing it.
anticipation.
Correct.
Yes.
It's not the end. So
Yep.
teaching people and saying, hey, there's something in your life where you did it, but did you feel really good as you were getting through it? I did. And when at the end, did you not feel so great? No, I didn't. I said, well, it's actually all the dopamine, and that's the end. So you plummet. So I'm like, it's not that it's the end goal. You were focusing too much on that feeling, but you're actually getting all the emotions, the dopamine, I call it the DOS cocktail, the Dopamine-Oxytocin-Serotonin. You were getting all that goodness. And then it's like at the end of the night, when they stop serving all the alcohol, you're like, oh, it's empty. That's what it was. So, and that's where I tell them, like, we keep focusing on the journey. You're going to have that pivot point, and then we're going to focus on the next part. So they understand it's all that part and parcel that where they're getting that real DOS. And that's just where they understand it, right? And it's a beautiful thing once they do it, because I'm never fully outcome based unless their marathon is something specific. But I'll also say, hey, how good did you feel leading up to it? That was your race. This is just that check, and we're going to look. So then they start to understand their brain differently, and then I get rid of that huge dim cycle.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm a high school teacher as well as coach, and I'm in health right now teaching seniors, and I talk all about that, the dopamine, the oxytocin, the anticipation of everything, all the addictive things. It's the anticipation. If you won every single time you gambled, it wouldn't be addictive. If every single time you won, it's not addictive. It's like the anticipation of the win. And now it's like, oh, I didn't. Oh, I got to get that again. I got to get that again. If every time you knew.
You know what's funny? What you just said there. This is where I'll give you like the epiphany. Like, so you just said open loops. So open loops are the best thing in marketing. Like you said, it's the anticipation. So if you keep it going, it drives us nuts in a way that it will keep anticipated. But for a healthy mind, you actually want to close. So in marketing, keep the loops open, and you'll make it crazy. And
so tell us how you manipulate the audience with your non-manipulative open loop marketing strategies, Jill Bunny.
How do I actually do that? It's just open loops, keeping them anticipated. Just keep them anticipated. Never close it completely. Whereas, like, so The Bachelor, I'll give this example. They did really well where they shifted. That they had the rose ceremony at the end, at the beginning. Well, I don't really care so much about watching the next one because I found out who left.
Gotcha.
Somebody very smart said, why don't we put it in the middle? So it open loop.
Yeah.
So that's really what it is. You actually want to keep an open loop where your brain wants more. You want more. So that's marketing. And that's where I say to people that, you know, when I was health coaching, they're like, man, like, it's the TV shows. And I'm like, well, no shit. Like, they're doing a good job. That's when they're paying millions of dollars to do, is to keep an open loop. But if you understand that, you're like, I understand.
You turn it off at the end of the rose ceremony. The next day, you pick up on the second half of the episode.
That's what you do. Like, that's where you understand. Or bliss point, right? So where we learn that with like the sugar, fat, and salt. Same thing. We're like, I can't believe I can't stop eating the Doritos. I'm like, no shit. Like, they actually spent millions of dollars to, like, for scientists to shove somebody in an MRI to eat a Doritos to make sure they hit all brain centers so you wanted more. So, like, do you not understand logically why you want more? There's nothing wrong with you. It's that we paid millions and millions of dollars to understand that you want to eat shit because they did that. But I'm like,
you're a conspiracy theorist. The government and these companies would never do that to us. You're a conspiracy theorist. I'm not going to say,
like, they even have one for kids with Goop for $400. They can send their kid to. So, yeah.
Did you say goop or poop?
Goop, like sugar, goop. Like juicy goop. Same thing. $400 they would get for the kid to do that, and they got all the brain centers. So that's where I always say to people, if you're smart and logical, you understand why you feel that way. And then even just with Oreos or something, like, there's nothing wrong with you. You don't need to go for this emotional eating garbage courses you're seeing online where they're saying all this flexible diet and crap. Like, just understand why your brain's doing it. They paid millions of dollars. No shit. And I'm like, oh, okay.
The texture, how the crunch, but then also how quickly it absorbs in your mouth, so you don't have to work too hard. Like, every aspect of it is designed.
They do a really good job of marketing. I'm not confident.
Yeah. I think the concept of just no shit is a really funny thing. Just get that on a t-shirt.
Should we get a shirt? No shit.
I overate yesterday because the food was delicious. No shit. I drank too much last night. I'm hungover. No shit. Like, I
think we need a shirt for this episode. We need to get a shirt out.
No shit. But I think that open loop concept is very interesting when trying to set up people for long-term success, because your journey is going to evolve so many different ways. I just posted about this today. Like, I hired a coach back in March to get me ready for a photo shoot for my 40th birthday in February, which already passed, and I didn't do it. But along the way, things changed. I tore my Achilles. I had a bunch of stress from the event that I'm running, like financial problems. And all of a sudden, this focus of like, I want to be chiseled and jacked by February 8th of 2024 completely shifted into, I want to be able to walk. I want to be able to fulfill this event and have people enjoy it and come to it and have fun with it. I want to be able to recoup all my expenses from the event. So like life will change. And I think everybody's got this very singular view of, well, I hired a coach or I'm paying this person this money for this specific outcome, as opposed to I'm hiring this person, entering into a relationship with this individual, knowing that my life is variable and knowing that things are going to come along the way. And I need to be fluid and need to be able to lean into that coaching no matter what the season of my life is. And I think that's the biggest message when working with a professional is just know that just because you set out on one path doesn't mean that that's the path you have to stay on. And you can't always expect there to be an uphill, visible or feelable result, no matter what you're doing, whether it's business coaching, whether it's marketing coaching, health coaching. Like, it's going to suck throughout the way. And there's going to be times where you're completely on task and nothing's changing. And there's going to be completely times where you're completely off task and it doesn't even matter to you in that moment. And you have to be flexible to receive that.
It's funny, as you're saying that stuff, I'm thinking about like the parent who pays for the coach for their kid in a sport. And they're not paying expecting now for that kid to be number one in the nation. Parents they're paying
because they're just out of line.
Losers. They're paying for so that the kid can be the best that he can be. You know, like that's what they're paying to try to help this kid get to their best potential. But then as adults, we're viewing the coach as an outcome. I need to be down 7 pounds. Not I'm hiring somebody to be part of this process in my life because I know that I'm always going to be pursuing something. And even while we're working together, this pursuit and this goal that I might have ahead might change, like what happened with Aram. And if that's that perspective, they might have a little bit maybe more grace, forgiveness with themselves for not always holding the course of this perfect track, to hold a little bit more grace for the coach as well, because it's not on them if you're not doing the stuff, but just to even have that perspective shift, it's like you should always, the happiest people aren't the people that have all the things. They're the people that are pursuing something, just pursuing something. And it goes back to that dopamine hit. Just have something that you're pursuing, no matter what it is. Meth.
Some mic.
Sorry. You guys didn't say anything quick enough. I had to say something.
Well, I think what happened with Jill with her disease, and when she got diagnosed, she turned it into her purpose. And I think we have a lot of people that work with us that don't quite have a clear path. Like, yes, they're parents, which is one part of their identity, but being a good parent it's sad that we have to celebrate it these days because so many bad parents exist. Like, it's your responsibility. If you've had children, you better be a good fucking parent because your kids depend on you and the world depends on you being a good parent, because otherwise you're leaving your trash for us to have to take care of. And
he's very angry at children, Joe.
I'm more angry at bad parents than I am at kids, because kids don't know any better. Kids are not supposed to know better. They're supposed to be taught better, and that's the parent's responsibility. So shame on you if you're a parent not doing your job. Like, you're not supposed to get a pat on the back and a gold star for being a good mother. Like, that's what you're supposed to fucking do.
That's what you signed up for.
Exactly. So
I mean, gold stars are still nice.
No, it's nice, but like that. But that's a participation trophy, just like
we don't need no participant ribbons in life. Like, those should not exist. We're not even going there.
No, I mean, that would be another hour podcast in which we'd probably invite some NFL running to it. But I think that like the concept of being able to take something and turn it into a purpose and actually have a higher power to serve. And I don't mean like God or whatever else. I just mean like do something for other people, as opposed to just consistently worrying about like, why am I not getting better? Well, maybe you're not getting better because you don't have a reason to.
The purpose is everything, right? That helps us get out. If we don't have purpose, we're not going to get out of bed, right? So that's a big thing for, like I say, for business. Same thing. That we know that as a person, if we don't have a purpose, whatever it might be, it doesn't matter. That gets us out of bed. And that's what I say for a brand now, because we see a lot of garbage. And like, you want your brand to have a purpose. It has to come alive so that you can make impact. And that's the biggest thing, is that you have to come alive so you can make impact in a better life. And there's people like you and people listening. That's your chance, that we all have the ability to do it. It's just if we choose to say, okay, I'm going to step up and make a difference. And transforming someone else's life and making an impact is huge, no matter how small. When you just shift somebody and they have a better day, it's the best feeling in the world.
So that's why we do what we do.
Big thing.
So
Thanks for the. Jill also, she didn't say this on here. She gave me and Aram 2 free-hour consults to help with our business. Since I said it, now it has to happen.
Let's go back to the beginning and go
Would it be
2
fun?
truths.
Two truths and a lie.
Yeah. So give us 2 truths and a lie. We'll see if we can figure it out.
Okay. My first marriage, last name was Fish. I've been arrested and I've been on 10 covers.
I'm going to say 10 covers is the lie.
Correct.
Fucking good. Fuck you, Aram, you slowpoke piece of shit.
I was kind of.
I've been arrested before.
My brain was wondering what she got arrested for.
So I'll tell you quickly because it is kind of
Well,
funny.
I think
This is
earlier
also
you-
very- yeah,
Earlier
I
you
did.
said the number of covers, and I was paying attention on like some people, and I remembered it was not 10. I think was it 5?
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
damn. I'm
Yeah,
fucking
so
on
I
fire.
literally I got married to the last name is Fish, and then I went to Bunny, so it's fine. The
Fish to
last name-
buddy.
Fish to Bunny, and actually my first name was Jill with the G, so I was Gillfish. Kid you not, that I'm not lying
Gillfish,
about that. That's
wow.
terrible.
Julia Gulia. That's
Can't
funny.
hun-
Why is that
can't make-
funny?
Can't make that shit up. But this is also a very good learning curve for
Jill
young
Fish,
people
Jill Bunny.
listening and parents with kids. So
Don't
I
marry a
was
British guy. Oh, never mind.
that also absolutely
all.
not. So I was in New York and I was a camp counselor. I was 19, so I couldn't drink in the States. In Canada, we can drink at 19, 21, you can't. So I decided to be the DD at that time I could. So I was driving somebody else's car. And park rangers in New York apparently don't like Jews. I'm just going there apparently. So we got pulled over. I'm not making this up. And all 3 people in the back of the car had the same ID, which is not good. So they were drinking underage. And then they decided to open up the trunk of the car and there was
A dead
cocaine,
body.
ecstasy, and I
Oh.
mean drugs beyond drugs. So
This camp
magnitude.
sounds awesome.
Yeah, I want to go.
Where is this camp?
So I shouldn't put the date, but yeah. So I got arrested, and because I was driving, I am responsible for. And even though that was mine, I didn't know.
Underage,
But luckily,
yeah.
they found out I wasn't Jewish, and I was let go. But I had to testify for the 3 other people. So
Don't worry, we got one of us up
Not
here
the life.
testifying against them Jews today.
like
messed up.
told you, I got a messed up life for that sense. But I could have
Oh
literally ruined
my
my
God.
life, not being able to go to America ever again. Like it literally could have screwed up absolutely everything from that moment
Yeah.
of just try. So tell your kids to look in the back seat and make sure you know it's in that car, because like.
And
shake
that's
it up.
is that the story you're sticking to? Not you were smuggling drugs from the Canadian border over to New York?
Man, our stuff's not that good.
That's
You're
it used to
smuggling,
be good. Used to be good.
you're smuggling it back. Right, I see. That is wild.
It
That's
is
awesome.
a wild story, but and I've got more. So, but that's just the tame stuff.
That well,
Part
we
2, the
don't-
secret
yeah.
episode.
Okay, see,
See, I
Open
kept that
loop.
open loop. There you
She just
go.
opened-
Oh, and our first episode on our new Patreon account. It will be the second half of this conversation.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Well, we've already discussed having to monetize this thing, so I think it's coming soon.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Jill will help us. She'll help us.
Absolutely.
Jill, thank you for sharing your afternoon with us. I appreciate it. I think our audience is going to get a lot out of this, and I will not be surprised if people are going to be reaching out to you directly. So we'll make sure to have as much detail about where to find you as possible. And any parting words for our audience?
You know, I would say, first of all, thank you for having me and my craziness and non-filtered. I appreciate that. I would say my theme this year, everybody has different ones. It's the 2024 that people want to level up, you know, whatever it might be. I'm not saying that's wrong. I don't think I need to level up. I just need to follow through. So that's the biggest thing is we got to follow through. And if you follow through, you'd be pretty magnificent.
It's awesome. We love it. And Joe, our final question that we ask every guest on this show. Bye.